It was one of those peaceful Saturday evenings when everything felt just right. The sun was setting behind our backyard trees in Charlotte, and a golden hood bathed the living room as I lit the last of the candles for the dinner party my husband Daniel was finishing up the drinks while I set the table. We were expecting only close family that night, including his younger brother Ryan, who had recently returned to the States after spending 5 years overseas for work. Ryan was the kind of person who made an impression instantly. He had Daniel's sharp jawline and confident presence, but there was something a little more playful in the way he carried himself. I remember meeting him for the first time at our wedding 10 years ago. He was only 20 then, full of energy and charm. Over the years we stayed in touch, but distance and life kept our interactions minimal. This night was special because Daniel hadn't seen Ryan in almost 2 years. They were close growing up, almost inseparable, and it meant the world to Daniel to have his brother back home. I could see in his eyes as he prepared Ryan's favorite cocktail, even down to the brand of bourbon Ryan once mentioned offhand. The guests arrived slowly, and soon the house was full of laughter, music, and conversation. Ryan showed up fashionably late, as always, with his signature grin and a bouquet of leaves for me. He said, for being the most gracious host in North Carolina. I lauded off and thanked him, trying not to read too much into his compliments. That was just Ryan, charming, smoothing, effortlessly likable. Dinner went smoothly. Daniel sat between his sister Claire and Ryan, catching up on everything from their childhood memories to current job news. I mostly listened, smiling at how easily the brothers slipped back into their old rhythm. I had almost forgotten how animated Daniel Beckham when he was around Ryan, it mad and happy. This was family. As the night wore on, the guests began to leave. Claire had a long drive, and Daniel excused himself early to rest. He had work at overtime the entire weekend. Looked drained by the end of the night. I offered to clean up, but Ryan stayed behind and insisted on helping me move in sink. As we cleared the dishes, shared small talk, and joked about who had the worst dishwashing technique. Then, as I reached for a towel to dry a plate, and noticed Ryan watching me, his gaze more intense than casual. You've always been good at this, he said softly. At doing dishes, I teased, trying to lighten the sudden shift in the mood. No, he stayed still, holding that serious look at making people feel at home at ease. I've always had this warmth. I laughed nervously and turned back toward the sink. Well, I tried. He was quiet for a moment, then said something that made me pause mid-scrub. Sarah, there's something I've wanted to say for a long time, just never had the chance, or maybe never had the courage. I put the dish down slowly. What is it? He leaned against counter, exhaled, and then said, I've had feelings for you since the first time we met. The words hit like a wave. I stared at him, unsure whether I had heard him correctly. Ryan, what are you saying? He didn't look away. I know it's wrong. I know you're married to my brother, but I can't keep pretending like I don't feel something every time I see you, and I think part of you might feel it too. My heart was pounding. It wasn't that I hadn't noticed Ryan's attention over the years. The way he smiled asked longer than necessary, the compliments that sometimes bordered on personal, but I always brushed them off. Was family. Daniel's brother. Ryan, that's not fair, I said, finally keeping my voice calm. You can't just say something like that. I love Daniel, he sighed. Brother, I know, and I'm not asking for anything, Ryan said quickly. I just needed to be honest. I've held this in for so long, and being back here, seeing you again, it brought everything back. I stepped away and sat at the kitchen table, trying to collect my thoughts. Ryan followed, but kept a respectful distance. I care about you, Ryan, I said, but not in that way. What you're feeling might be nostalgia or admiration or something else, but acting on it or even entertaining it would only hurt everyone. Nodded, looking down at his hands. I'm sorry, I really didn't mean to make things uncomfortable. I just thought maybe you should know. Silence lingered between us. Then, after a deep breath, I stood up and said, let's just forget this happened, for Daniel's sake and for all of us. Ryan nodded again, more somber this time. Yeah, of course. The next few days were awkward. Ryan didn't come by, and when Daniel asked if something had happened, I said Ryan was probably just adjusting to being back home. I didn't want to come between them or burden Daniel with something that could break his heart. Weeks passed. Eventually, Ryan returned to family dinners, and things returned to a version of normal. He never brought up that night again, and I appreciated discretion still. Every now and then, I'd catch him watching me a little too long, and I quickly look away. One afternoon, I got a call from Ryan. He wanted to meet for coffee. He said it was important, curious, and cautious. I agreed, but only at a public cafe downtown. We sat across from each other, and before I could ask what this was about, he handed Emmy a small envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter. Leaving town, he said, there's an opportunity in California. I need the distance. I need to move on. I thought about what you said, and you were right. It's time I stopped living in the past. I read the letter, which was heartfelt and sincere. He apologized again and thanked Edmund for being kind even when he wasn't, sir. He deserved it. I'll always respect what you and Daniel have. He said he's lucky, and so am I to have known you. I smiled, tears welling up in my eyes. Thank you for saying that and for understanding. We hugged goodbye, just a short respectful embrace, and he left that evening. When I told Daniel later that Ryan had taken a job offer in California, he was surprised but happy for his brother. He didn't ask why Ryan left so suddenly, and I didn't offer any explanation. Some truths I realized were better kept quiet for the sake of love, loyalty, and peace. Months later, Daniel and I went on a vacation to Charleston, trying to reconnect after a long stretch off work stress. As we walked the cobbled streets and watched the waves roll onto shore, I found myself grateful not just for my marriage, but for the strength to choose the right path when temptation knocked. Sometimes the hardest stations are the ones no one ever knows about, and sometimes doing the right thing means letting go of what could have been for the sake of what already is. And in the end, I knew I made the right choice.